Wow, what an introduction, huh? I saw my head up there. It was huge. So hopefully it's not that big in real life. All right. Pleasure to be here. I know we're a little early. It's hard to see. I'm going to move around a little bit. Hopefully nobody tells me that's a problem, but I tend to get a little nervous and pace when I'm talking. So, all right. Today, we're going to talk about something that's a little bit less technical, more theoretical. Hopefully it's informative. It's something that I've been really interested in and really passionate about for the last few years. And it's based off of what I've seen, you know, pretty much throughout my career, and like most of you here have dealt with software throughout your careers and probably your professional life. Jumping right in real quick, I'm going to do a quick introduction. This is me. That's taller than I am. I feel like if I stand here, I feel a little taller now, or maybe. But I am a Texan. I come from Dallas, Texas. I live in Dallas, not too far from here. I am married. I'm a father. Those are my two biggest accomplishments, I would say. I'm a developer and an architect as well. And you know, Lisa gave a great introduction. Thank you for that. But really, I would say my biggest achievement has been my sous vide. My sous vide is probably the thing I'm most proud of. I've been able to do a mean steak. I've even sous vide a brisket once, and it took a long time, but it was delicious. I'm also chief architect over at Vonage, which is an Ericsson company. And like most of you, noticing here the Cowboys jersey, before software, I was a professional football player for the Dallas Cowboys. I had a career-ending injury. I was born unskilled at football and too short. So I got into software. So that's a little bit of kind of my humor around things. But I like to poke fun of myself. But that's a great thing if you ever go to Shields in Dallas. They'll let you stand in front of this and take your picture as a cowboy. So, like I was saying, software is something that all of us are here because of, right? We either, are in the industry, we've dealt with it our entire professional lives, and we've been affected by the ups and downs throughout the years of the software industry. But not a lot of us know exactly how things became to be. You hear terms like DevOps, you hear terms like CI/CD, Agile, platform engineering, and all these things. And where'd they come from, right? How are we here? How do we learn from them? How do we take advantage of it so our lives are better and we can build better software? So like every good History Channel documentary, I'm going to start from the very beginning with the Stone Age of software. This was back in the day when you had punch cards and physical cables and big old machines. And funny enough, the term debugging started here. I mean, it was before computers, but it really became what we knew about it in this Stone Age era, when there was actually a moth inside of a computer that kept one of the relays from closing. So they removed the bug, and that's where the term debugging that we all know came from. So this was really early on. Literally, you have the cavemen, you have the woolly mammoths of technology back in the 40s and 50s. But like every good history story, we eventually had the Renaissance. Oh wow, the formatting didn't work quite as well, but imagine that it did. So the Renaissance is when we started seeing the potential, right? The world had changed. We were in the 60s and the 70s. Things were a little bit different. Things like operating systems had started to come about. New languages, COBOL, Fortran, new things have started entering and becoming a foundation. We had the great thinkers of the time building new software, building things that got us into space, building new technologies, and laying the foundation for really our modern use of software. This was then followed up, ultimately, by the age of empires in the 80s. And a lot of the empires that we know today started then. Our Apples, our Microsofts, our SAPs, our IBMs, our HPs. These are all huge empires that really took off and became huge in the 80s. And they started defining the new products and defining the new patterns that we were all starting to use in our day-to-day lives. This laid the foundation for the internet boom in the 90s. Pets.com, eBay, PayPal, what else? Pretty much anything that could be online started becoming used in the 90s, and unfortunately that bubble burst. But what did that really do? That was the beginning of a crack in the way things had been. I mean, if you think back to how software started, software was something you wore a tie to go to work for, right? And you had to work with these big companies that had the means and the mechanisms and the money to employ you with these big systems to build a very specific thing. Then the internet came about, and it started cracking that foundation. And it just kept going, where we started seeing, wait a minute, well, if I don't need to be at this big company, and I can build an app like pets.com, a website like pets.com or PayPal, why is everything not free? Why can't I have free software for a free world? Linux happened, Git happened. All of these patterns and practices that we rely on heavily really started in the beginning of the 2000s. And they started shaking the foundation of these big empires as well even more. Then something really big happened after that. Maybe not big, it was actually pretty small. It was the mobile revolution. And the mobile device in your pocket became a way for developers to reach all of their customers. You didn't have to have a huge infrastructure, a huge team, right? And guess what happened after that? Jeans Fridays became everyday jeans, because you could work on something and deliver it to customers without the huge sales force that came from the empire. And that was compounded even more with the cloud invasion. Now, I'm building something on my laptop, shipping it to a store, reaching millions of people. I have a back end. I don't want to buy a server. Let me go rent a server. I don't want to buy disk. Let me go rent a disk. And so these are where things started becoming more and more, obsolete. We didn't want to buy data centers. I mean, it was a big push in that direction. Everything started happening. And we started seeing terms like DevOps, right? Because now you don't own the servers. You're renting the servers. You don't own the deployment timeline. You don't own any of that thing. So you need to have mechanisms where you can communicate efficiently, where you can get the thing that you need tested, deployed, and do your fallback, your rollbacks, and so on. And that ultimately became a lot of overhead. We had the mobile developer who now can code from a beach, deploy their code with a click of a button, get it to millions of people. Something would go bump, and they have to go roll back, and something had to change. And that's where the platform engineering, age started. Not too long ago, probably around with the pandemic, where really we needed to scale. You wanted to think about the cloud, the enterprise, like a mobile phone, right? I want to be able to reach out to it, deploy something on it. If something goes bad, I want to roll back quickly. I want to be able to get the information. I want to be able to see if it works. I want to be able to see how many people are complaining. And this all culminated to the platform engineering. But of course, this is all theory, right? We've all seen this, we've all experienced it. I bet if you go back and you think about some of these timelines, you're going to go back and think about where you were when some of these things happened, and it's going to tickle you. It was really interesting when I was researching this stuff and thinking about, I remember when I was excited about jeans on Friday. And now I don't own dress shoes. I, was worried that I might have to go and buy a suit to go somewhere because I don't have any more dress shirts. And it's a huge change. This was not something that was the case when I started my career. And so we understand that we're in an age of platform engineering. We're in an age where we need to be able to reach out and build things quickly, reliably, securely, and not just have the anything goes like we did with the beginning of the mobile world. There's so many things like AI, there's so many things like security issues, there's so many things like compliance guidelines that have been happening that are just, the pendulum can't swing back anymore. It used to be in the beginning, you had centralized IT, centralized silos, you submit your code to a change group, they reviewed it, it was okay, it would go. Then with the mobile transition, it went the other way and everything went. But now the cat's out of the bag and we can't catch it, so platform engineering is supposed to be how we solve that problem. So let's take an example. All right, this is all great, But I'm a simple man, right? I like sous vide, hunting, and fishing. And I like to take simplified examples of our life in our software world to parallel it to our real world. And so I'm going to give you guys an example, a walkthrough of how software can build something like a city, right? And hopefully that'll paint the picture of how I think platform engineering can help us build our software more efficiently like we see homes being built today. So let's go back to the beginning. This is the Wild West, right? Back in the day, you wanted to build a piece of software, you were in the middle of nowhere. You were by yourself. You wanted heat, you better find some wood, right? You wanted to stay alive at night, you better build a fence. These are all things that you had to do, and you had very limited options, and you get what you get, and you didn't throw a fit. And that was fine. That was fine in the early days, because back in the day, software was not a business enabler. It was a supporting system for some businesses. And then eventually, oops, I missed that one. We'll skip that one. We talked a little about. Eventually, more and more things started coming together. Software started to get a little bit more advanced. We started having more than just that one little house on the prairie. We had settlements where we had effectively more than one little house on the prairie. But if you go outside that town, it's still the Wild West. You had your bank, which may be your DBAs. You had your sheriff, which were your network guys, right? They all worked together as long as you kind of stayed within the little town. And if you try to do something else, we don't like folk that aren't from around here. That's kind of how it went. And so you started seeing, though, things start growing. And as we saw on the timeline, some empires started happening. And this is really where you can envision the huge walled-off cities that are out in the middle of nowhere. I want you to think like some old Persian city or Egyptian city or European city where these are your SAPs, right? These are your IBMs. These are your Microsoft BizTalks, right? As long as you were inside of the walls and you were under the good graces of the Sultan or the king or the queen or whoever was in there, you were fine. You got what you did, what you needed to get done. But if you went outside the walls, they were going to throw their waste on you and you wouldn't be able to get anything done. And that worked great. That worked great for a very long time, until the internet. And once the internet really started becoming more mainstream, more available, this was our backbone. This was a way to connect different parts of the world together. And you start seeing here, this example, you're starting to see platform services. You've got the industrialized, factories over here that did database as a service. You've got these guys over here that did the React UI, right? And you can connect all of that together through the backbone that is the internet. And so this is where software started shifting from being a supporting role to providing business value to actually being a revenue stream itself for the companies. Next, we started seeing a cosmopolitan boom. And you notice here what I did is I took an old-time kind of town, and I put a lot of boutique stores into it. Because this is where you started having your new specialized coffee brewery place that was very different than your Starbucks that people wanted to go to. These are your app developers, right? You were still on some old infrastructure, so you were limited there. You may have a great, barista, but there's no plumbing, right? I don't know if any of you guys are following up on the Paris Olympics, but they have a sewage problem in Paris because the city was kind of built up over hundreds of years, and the river there is not suitable for swimming. And they want to swim in the river for the Olympics. I'm glad I'm not a swimmer, but yeah, so they're trying to fix it. It'll work. The empire grew over the years. Their monolith needed to be, somebody needed to take a look at the monolith and fix some underlying infrastructure. But this is kind of what you're seeing, especially with the mobile boom, where you have all kind of things enabled for anybody to open up their storefront. You can have some deconstructed sandwich store. Because as an app developer, I can make a deconstructed sandwich store and reach my customers. I don't have to be part of the big machine anymore. So now we've talked about all this. Where are we today? How many of you here drove through Texas recently and saw some of these master plan communities? Right? Nobody? One, two people? These are communities you see all across the country where they will sell you a picture of a beautiful town with roads and infrastructure and green spaces and hospitals and everything. And then you buy plots, and those plots are ready to go, and they can build hundreds of homes that are very different in a few years. Used to take several years to build one home, but now they're able to build this. And this is the platform engineering era that we're in, right? You are now given a foundation. So when you're building software and you think about, okay, how do I translate platform engineering to my company? I want to build the plot that other developers can come build their home on. Do you want them to deal with the sewage? Do you want them to deal with waste management? Do you want them to deal with 110, 220? No. These are all things that are provided by the platform engineering or by the master plan community. You're building for the builders. And that's ultimately what platform engineering is. You don't want them to worry. You don't want everybody to have a different size road because cars have a size, lanes have a size. There needs to be so many hydrants, so on and so forth. That's your security, your compliance, right? And this is where you can start seeing the collaboration happen. You can set up HOAs. You can set up community outreaches, right? You can have best practices. And you can really start seeing some innovation in the homes. Now, ChatGPT did all of this. It was a really long prompt. But hopefully you can see that there are some homes that are much nicer than others. Some have more green space. Some have pools. That's just like our software. Our software is not all the same. You cannot create cookie-cutter software. It would have been done. ChatGPT would have done it. But what you can do is you can give them a solid foundation for everybody to kind of build on top of and have the freedom and flexibility to do so at their own rate. So where does that take us in the future? How can you take this information and apply it to your company? Think about what you're trying to achieve. What are you trying to do for your company or for yourself from a software perspective? You want software that can have skyscrapers. You want software that can have a one-bedroom efficiency. You want wide roads. You want green belts. You want pools. You want a superhighway. You want drone delivery. Think of it in that aspect. How can you provide the foundation, the security foundation, the infrastructure for connecting things from one to another, waste management, power management, water management, log management, authentication, authorization. If it fits in this scheme of things that you should provide, that's where you should think about your platform engineering discipline. So think about the tools that you have. And I'm not going to list any tools. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Hopefully, this is an exercise to get you thinking about how I think about platform engineering. How can you give your customer, which is now the builder, the ability to build the best house that they can build? All right. And with that, I'll take questions.
Anybody? Anybody?
Not a single one.
You can ask him anything, by the way.
Anything.
As I said, he's broke it all, he's fixed it all. Any technology, go for it.
Fishing, hunting, sous vide, software, Kubernetes, Docker.
What is your secret to a good ribeye on the sous vide?
Oh, I love reverse, well, on a sous vide?
Yeah.
On a sous vide, I like to do it up to 110 and then really, really hot coal. I don't do anything else but coal. I don't know why. Coal on a sous vide is fantastic.
And what, are you marinating it in like some garlic and olive oil?
No, nothing. Just salt and pepper.
Ah, okay.
Just salt and pepper.
Kim, there's a question.
Okay. Here I'm coming.
What's your favorite animal to hunt or place to go hunting?
Oh.
Repeat the question, please. What's your favorite animal
What's my favorite
to hunt
animal to
or go
hunt?
hunting?
And where do I hunt? So I enjoy duck hunting. I have a lease in West Texas that I go to. And I also hunt a duck in Galveston as well. Anything else related to software, maybe? Awesome. Well, hopefully that's because I've given you all a lot to think of, nothing controversial. Hopefully this is something you can take back and build upon and put your own spin and flavor on it. And thank you so much for the time and the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.